Welcome back. Thanks for coming back to hear part 2 of Mrs. Pinkelbrenner. But before we start, I did want to encourage you, if you haven't already listened to the opening sample, the opening part of the chapter, or read it from the download, I do encourage you to do so because it will give you more context to what you're going to hear. So, without further ado, here's part 2 of I Don't Want to, Mrs. Pinkelbrenner. Now, while confident most baby boomers get the previous description, I do feel obliged to offer additional context for pre-boomers. First, please accept my humble apologies for this archival photo of an all-white, prim, and properly dressed classroom, regrettably a reality in Texas in the late 50s and 60s. Okay. Now, while not the actual Mrs. Pinkelbrenner, the teacher on your left, that's this lady here, is really close. Notice this teacher's gentle, benevolent smile. I mean, wouldn't you want your child embraced in the tender bosom of her loving care? Well, forget about it. It's a total ruse. Chances are, behind those understated wireframe glasses lurks a menacing harpy. Greek mythology's ravenous, filthy, foul-smelling monster with a woman's head and bird's body, ready to feed on the emotional entrails of small children. Thinking back to that Dallas afternoon and what felt like an unfolding courtroom drama, my response to Mom's opening cross-examination was really, really dumb. I mean, she had only said she and Mrs. Pinkelbrenner had spoken by phone. She didn't say what they had spoken about. I mean, maybe they talked about what a delightful little character I was and how she valued the glee I brought to the classroom each day. Tell me exactly what happened, Mom demanded. I felt like an accused killer grilled in an episode of Perry Mason. And get your hand out of those Cheetos while I'm talking to you, wrenching the bag from my cheesy fingers, sending snow globe-like cheddary flakes to the floor. I began my defense. It wasn't my fault, Mom. There's this really mean girl, Mindy. She always makes fun of me. I wiped away new hordes of sweat scouts emerging from their hairy hideout on my head. She called me fatso. She stuck her gooey chewing gum in my hair. I squinched out the best mope I could muster and squeezed my eyes, hopeful a tear or two trickling down my cheeks might influence a verdict of innocence. I also banked on the fact that when it came to her kids, Mom was militantly protective. I mean, she had earned the nickname Cassius Kagan the summer before when she cold-cocked a woman, knocking her into our community pool for saying something hurtful about her Brian. Why didn't you tell your teacher she was bothering you? Well, I was scared. If I tattled on Mindy, she'd get mad at her. Mom responded, I relaxed, thinking my diversionary tactic had actually worked and the really bad parts of the story would remain a secret, the illusion of which disappeared with Mom's next question. So then tell me why you opened the bathroom door when Mindy was in there. What the hell were you thinking? Nailed. Guilty as charged. I imagine an officer leading me out of the courtroom in handcuffs. The sweat gangs struck with vengeance and invading all remaining nooks and crannies. Head down and shuffling in place, I responded, I'm sorry, Mom. I'm really sorry. Tears rolled down my cheeks and turned pale orange as they meandered through the Cheetos carnage surrounding my mouth. Her tone softened just a smidge as Mom said, Tell me everything that happened, Brian. Sniffling, I recapped the crime. I wanted to scare Mindy, just a little. She went to the bathroom, so I sneaked over from my desk when Mrs. Pinkelbrenner wasn't looking. I mean, I heard her peeing, so I opened the door. When I pointed and laughed, she screamed and started crying. Then I screamed and started crying. I mean, there I was. A fat 6-year-old boy sweating profusely while spilling my guts. My life passed before my eyes. Mind you, at 6, it was just about sneeze length. I looked up at Mom shaking her head from side to side and grinning. I mean, I was facing the end of my short life, and she thought this was funny. She chuckled and continued. And then what happened? What did Mrs. Pinkelbrenner do? It was no use trying to hide or lie about what happened next. She got real mad. She yelled at me, "Come over here right now, mister." She didn't call me Brian. She called me mister. Mom's shoulders huffed up and down and her lips pursed. Then she sat up straighter in her chair, replaced the grin with a frown and urged, "Go on." I sniffled to wipe my nose with my bare arm and continued. I went right to her desk. The other kids laughed and pointed at me. Mindy was still crying. Mrs. Pinkelbrenner said what I did was very, very bad. My voice now squeaking. And she said she was going to call you. My breathing faster and faster. Mom leaned in and asked, "And?" My cheeks burned and my heart pounded so loudly I could feel it in my eardrums. She stared at me with scary eyes, Mom. She made me sit on the floor under her desk, even though I said, "I don't want to, Mrs. Pinkelbrenner." She made me stay there all day. Mom's lips twitched as she leaned over and smashed out her Salem in the bottom of the glass ashtray. The other kids kept laughing at me. It hurt, Mom, like a bunch of splinters. I told her all that happened next, starting with how I had to get down on my hands and knees and crawl into the cave of shame formed between 2 vertical rows of nicked and scratched drawers beneath the massive wooden desk. How I had to wrangle my chubbiness into her bleak prison. How when Mrs. Pinkelbrenner returned to her desk and sat down, she spread her legs and straddled me, as if stationing 2 armed guards to restrict any movement. Then, how I had to sit cross-legged on those shivery linoleum tiles, looking up the tunnel formed by Mrs. Pinkelbrenner's skirt and parted legs where a ghostly image loomed. Thankfully, just her snowy white girdle. Mom's eyes stretched wide open. She responded, "She made you do what?" "Oh!" She paused, nodded slowly, and tapped her bubblegum pink-tipped nails on the Formica tabletop. Her lips tightened and curved into a smile. "Oh, okay, that's enough. Go wash your face and hands. Then go to your room and get out of that filthy T-shirt." Just when I thought the pain of my humiliating day at school was over, Mom passed the cruelest sentence of all. "Just wait till your father gets home. When he hears what happened, you're getting the strap." Nothing, not even attempting pull-ups, was as terrifying as that "wait till your father gets home" threat. I shuddered picturing Dad's pre-scourging belt snap. Dad stood about 5 feet 8 inches and sported a solid medium build, probably from schlepping Mighty Mist dress and Banbury coat samples all across the Southwest. He had jet black, slicked hair, shiny from Vitalis, accentuated by his dark complexion, tobacco brown eyes, and Errol Flynn mustache. Dashingly dressed, he oozed the essence of a smooth and debonair salesman. Gentle voice, caring demeanor, quick wit, and a short-fused, explosive temper. On rare times when he'd lose it, Dad would yank his belt out through the loops, fold it over, and choke each end in a clenched fist. Eyes squinted and nose flared. He was a master at the lightning pinch-and-pull motion that snapped the leather together like ravenous crocodile jaws. Screams for mercy would follow, to no avail. The ensuing suffering, it rivaled a date with Vlad the Impaler, 15th century ruler of Wallachia, who would have gleefully added the strap to his cruel repertoire had he seen Murray Kagan in action. No, Mom, please don't tell him. Mom, please. I crossed my legs and clenched to suppress my sudden urge to pee. We'll see. Now, go to your room. I glimpsed a thin smile as she reached for another cigarette. She lit, sucked, and turned her head, and sending sinews of smoke in the opposite direction. I was puzzled. Could she actually be happy I was going to be lashed to a pulp? Head hung and shoulders slumped, I walked out of the kitchen towards my bedroom. Pausing, I turned and asked, "Can I have my Cheetos?" "Now!" Around dinner time, the deep grumbling in my stomach set off the supper bells. I heard the smooth hum of Dad's 1957 rust-colored Buick Roadmaster purring across the driveway at the far end of the house. I scooted to the edge of my bed and leaned right up against the window screen just in time to see tails of blood-red light dissolving into the garage. My heart began thumping. I moved over to the closed door, laid down on the floor, and twisted my head so my ear just touched the underside edge of the door to hear through the 1-inch gap. I heard the door slam. Keys clanked onto the counter. I strained to hear Dad and Mom talking about what I had done. I started feeling dizzy knowing Dad would spank me. I wish I hadn't opened the bathroom door and teased Mindy, and then how I had to sit under Mrs. Pinkelbrenner's desk and hear all the kids laughing at me. Why was I so stupid? I began crying and anticipating the floor's vibration from Dad's hard-soled leather shoes pounding en route to my bedroom. My mind replayed the footage from the last encounter with the strap. I had called Dad a butthole when he refused to stop at Ashburn's ice cream around the corner from El Chico's restaurant where we'd just finished eating. He flogged me only 5 times, but I couldn't sit full butt for what felt like forever till it stopped hurting. Opening that door while Mindy peed meant I'd probably get a gazillion lashes. Surprisingly, there was no yelling. The footsteps didn't come. I thought maybe Dad took off his shoes and had snuck down the hall to right outside my door. I wondered if they were concocting an even worse punishment. That's when I heard a tumult of voices, but the only words I could understand were bits and pieces between Mom and Dad. "Made him do what?" Dad asked. "Yeah, and sit under the desk between her legs." Mom's hilarious cackles erupted. Dad responded asking, "And how long did she make him stay there?" "All day." "Under her desk between her legs?" "Yes." Thinking he would get angry at Mrs. Pinkelbrenner for making me do that, I was actually shocked at his response. Instead of anger, I heard laughter. They were both laughing. At me. What was so funny about Mrs. Pinkelbrenner getting mad and embracing me, embarrassing me like she did? My stomach felt as if fingers with sharp nails scratched back and forth trying to get out. I closed my eyes and laid there on the floor thinking about what I wanted to say to Dad at dinner. I hoped he would call and yell at Mrs. Pinkelbrenner. If I could go back to that moment, I would have also added how the impact of their laughter pierced the heart of a sensitive 6-year-old boy. Dad, Alan, and I sat around the dinette table while Mom stood at the electric stovetop stirring a pot of spaghetti noodles and tomato sauce. Mounds of watery iceberg lettuce, faded tomato wedges, and chunky cucumber slices brimmed over the top of the salad bowls. Bottles of Kraft, Thousand Island, and French dressing stood in the center of the table. 4 glasses of RC Cola hissed. My eyes still burned from all the crying in my room. My head down to avoid eye contact with Dad, I steadied myself and waited for him to ask me what happened at school. Instead, I was confused when he started talking to Alan. "So, your PE teacher thinks you have a knack for basketball." Dad smiled that proud kind of smile. "Yeah, Dad, I'm really excited," Alan replied. He was wearing a grass green PHS t-shirt, matching gym shorts, and dirty white high-top Converse sneakers. "Oh, that's great news, Alan." He paused, turned to me, and frowned as I flipped a cucumber slice into my mouth. So, Brian, I understand you got into some trouble today at school? Tell me what happened. Finally my chance to tell Dad how I really felt about the whole thing. I mean, I wanted him to get mad at Mrs. Pinkelbrenner and defend me. After a long pause, the silence echoed throughout the kitchen. Alan jumped in. You really had to sit on the floor under your teacher's desk? Oh, you are such a dork, he said, then covered his mouth in an attempt to mute the breathy snickering. His comment stabbed quick and deep. I took a deep breath, clenched my teeth, and squeezed my eyes into an angry glare, ready to blast a verbal attack at Alan for making fun of me. Before I could get a word out, though, Mom and Dad joined the chortling. Another stab. I wriggled in my chair and crunched desperately on another piece of cucumber, attempting to muffle their merriment. I wish I had fought through fear of punishment and more humiliation and told the three of them how hurt and betrayed I felt. Instead, I got an early lesson in our family's skill at dismissing painful feelings through witty mockery. It's not funny, I blurted. One tear melted down my cheek. Oh, don't cry, Brian, Mom offered as she scraped a glob of spaghetti onto my plate. We're not laughing at you, we're laughing with you. It's not funny, I whispered and stabbed another mouthful of salad. At dinner that night, we didn't talk anymore about what happened at school that day. We would never talk about it. Thanks again for stopping by. Appreciate you taking the time to watch and listen to my story. I hope you'll enjoy this and others to come. Thanks again, and remember, keep inking about it. Bye for now.